We're speaking with Danny Meyer, considered the Dean of American Hospitality. He's one of the Food Channel Pro's Leaders with Guts. Danny, is there any downside at all to being perceived as a great leader?
Not that I know of. I think that the greatest responsibility one has as a leader, whether you're great or not, is that the people who come to work feel like following you. And I think that it's your job to make sure to give people a reason to want to come to work. I don't really understand if there could be any possible downside to that. You get better people to want to come to work for your company, that helps your job be even easier. So no, I don't think so.
How do you inspire other people?
I try to give people a really balanced view of reality and hope, and that means you've got to be genuine. You've got to understand that business is a constant. It's just an ongoing wave of news, and some of it's good news, and some of it's bad news, and some of it's easy news, and some of it's hard news. And your job as the leader is to stay focused on the destination. You know, irrespective of today's news. Remember, guys, today's news has nothing to do with where we're going. It just has to do with what we're going to have to do to make little shifts in order to get there in a safe way that is enriching for all of us. So my job on a day-to-day basis is to remind people that we are going to get there. That's the hope, but also the reality of the adjustments that we have to make. And if I can do both of those, my partner Paul Bowles-Bevan has a great expression for leadership. He makes an L with his hands, and what he basically says is that the bottom part is the hope, and this part is the reality. And the hope is the support that lets you know you're not going to fall, but the reality is the thing that kind of keeps you pushing. You put them together, you've got a real L for leadership.
What mistake that you made has taught you the most about being a better leader?
I think early on in my career, a recurring mistake I made, and it probably had a lot to do with not only being inexperienced as a leader, but also younger than a lot of the people who came to work for me way back when. Now that's not the case. But I think it was far more important for me to be liked by people than to be respected by people. And I think that I was afraid of power. I was afraid of using my own authority. I was afraid of being seen as the boss. And I think what I've learned all these years later, happily I figured this out a few years ago, was that people really, they want you to exert power. They want you to tell them where the line is between doing the right thing and the wrong thing. They want those riverbanks. And when you do that for people, a nice byproduct besides being respected is that it doesn't mean that you can't be liked as well. But if you start from that perspective, which I did all too often, then you end up not necessarily making good decisions for the business, because you're making your decisions based on what you think is going to make more people happy.
Right, right. What leaders do you most admire?
It's a great question. You know, the obvious answer would be to try to think of somebody very, very famous who had done something extraordinary, and a name that comes to my mind along those lines is Colin Powell, who I think has shown that he can lead people into battle. He can lead people in fights that have enormous import for our country, for the entire world. But he's also somebody who has shown that he can fight racial barriers. He's somebody who can fight his own party when he needs to do that, to do what he believes in his heart is the right thing to do. On the other hand, I also have just a world of respect and honor for leaders that you and I will never meet. I think small business owners are really to be admired. They are people who put in hours every day. They try to balance what it takes to raise families and be an employer on a daily basis, and they're not getting rich bonuses, and they're not being, paid some enormous multiple compared to the lowest paid member of their team. And I think there's something heroic about the small business owner in this country.
You have achieved so much in your career. What is left for you to achieve?
There's two things that I'm really thinking about, right, in addition to wanting to keep doing the stuff I do, because restaurants are living organisms, and I want to keep our existing restaurants thriving and improving all the time. But I think that the growth of Shake Shack is really, really exciting. The growth of our events company, Hudson Yards, has been very exciting, getting into the sports world. And learning how to replicate something and sustain our culture as a company is a lot. So that's one area that's next, something we've never done. And the other part is the notion that one day I'd like to have the experience of selling something and creating a lot of value for my partners. It's been enough of a payoff for all these years to be in business for the purpose of making people happy and certainly making a nice living at it. But one of the great American dreams, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, is creating that big payday for somebody who started off as a waiter and who can now very, very comfortably put their kids through school and retire someday. I've never had that experience of doing that for other people, and I hope that'll come one day.
We've been talking with Danny Meyer of Union Square Hospitality Group. Check out the next part of this series as we explore what it takes to be a leader with guts. For Food Channel Pro, I'm Ellen Cotis.